Hello, everyone. I'm Colin of WrestleZone.com, and joined by John Clark tonight to talk about WWE NXT 2.0. John, how you doing?
Certainly can't complain. How are you?
About the same. About the same. Can't complain. Here on Tuesday to talk all things NXT 2.0 here. Before we do, just want to remind you all this show, like everything we do here, is available on all of our streaming platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So, John, obviously, this was the first show coming out of NXT New Year's Evil, as we had talked about last week. Definitely the crowning of a new era there. Braun Breaker winning the NXT title, Kamal Hayes unifying the North American and Cruiserweight titles. Overall, it's definitely a firm step forward into what already had been a stark new era there. So, with that in mind, we had some promos from the new champions. The show opened with Braun Breaker. Not much to write home about. He was saying, he beat Tommaso Ciampa, called him, a great human being, a great champion. Basically said, anyone who wants to step up, bring it on. I'm here. There are no off days. There's no off season. We're here all the time. So, bring it on. And pretty much very similar message from Kamal Hayes here. Might as well kind of combine because these were fairly, not unremarkable, but they were just promos from the champion saying, hey, I'm the champion now. And if anybody can step up. Kamal Hayes basically said, let's pull one out for the Cruiserweight title and for Roderick Strong's reign. And at first, there was nothing really to write home about there, but then he got confronted by a new challenger. We'll talk about that in a minute, but at least on a general sense here, what do you think about what we saw tonight from the new champions as kind of the, proverbial flag bearers of NXT 2.0?
Yeah, the future of the brand is in good hands anyway, with some champions that have certainly showcased their talent and proved that they are ready to kind of move to the next step there. Especially Braun Breaker, of course, opening the show there with that promo that he gave, although there was no real direction on who the possible next challenger is going to be. So maybe they don't even know themselves yet. I don't know, but uh, I think he certainly is ready for that role. And I guess it's safe to say Tommaso's gone. So, if he's still going to be with the company, we're out of choices unless he goes to the main roster. So there's hope for that reason. I think that he will come to the main roster because, his contract isn't going to expire. What else would he do realistically?
Yeah, ironically, spoiler alert, but Ciampa and Pete Dunne were on the main event taping, so technically they'll be not necessarily Ciampa's main roster debut, but they'll be on main event this week on WWE programming outside of NXT, so that is noteworthy regardless. And I think him especially, I would agree that it's probably, if not the main roster, I don't know what else you would do with him at this point. So have to agree with that one. And as we've been talking about, can easily see the Royal Rumble being an easy way to kind of set that up. But right off the bat here, a lot of comments about the main event, so we can circle back to the title picture. But, thoughts pouring in about what we saw tonight in the main event. Of course, finally, AJ Styles, Grayson Waller in a singles match. They've been feuding for weeks, and the time for talk was over tonight. They faced off in a match. And the right guy won. AJ Styles picked up the win, but seemingly a lot of you enjoyed it. This with Brian saying it was a banger. Love the LA Knight appearance. Talk about that in a minute. Nesha saying got to see AJ and Waller, but she's happy that Waller lost. Apparently, Nesha has turned on Grayson Waller. She was a big fan at first, but she has kind of she's come around the opposite way of not necessarily being all about the Grayson Waller effect. But Steven saying it was a great match at least. And maybe, as we've been talking about in a more general sense, Nick Fund asking if Waller could be coming to the main roster. I think this was a big test for that possibility. It's like, okay, if he could hold his own, you could see that eventually. But and I thought he did. I thought as far like he kind of passed the eye test. It wasn't like he was terribly outclassed. Like, it's AJ Styles, a world-class competitor, and I thought he looked fine. Like, I thought it was a good match. Yeah. So I like this, and maybe kind of with this in mind, even with the loss here, you think about Grayson Waller, held his own with a former WWE champion, could easily kind of play that into a, hey, this is I did that, so I could easily at least hold my own with the NXT champion. I could see that being an option because, as you said, John, no real clear direction there. But then, of course, yes, AJ Styles won, and he grabbed the mic and said, all right, this isn't over. Waller, you might be good, but you're not phenomenal. And then AJ brought out his friend, cue the appearance of LA Knight. LA Knight has been out for a couple weeks ever since right around War Games or so. He was in the match, and then if I remember correctly, I think Waller like took him out or something. So these two guys still feuding. This feud dates back to at least Halloween Havoc, where they're feuding over who would get to host that show. So it's been going on for quite a while, and now it's clearly going to continue. But as I said a minute ago, Brian saying that he loves the LA Knight appearance. Steve Timber saying LA Knight is back. Let me talk to you. Yeah. So LA Knight back on NXT, feuding with Grayson Waller here. John, what do you think about this show closing angle and a pretty big spot for LA Knight?
Well, with a huge spotlight that they have built for Waller over the past couple of weeks, I thought from what they did, he delivered. I think he really did deliver. He looked like he belonged in the main event spot. He competed fairly well with AJ Styles. Now, of course, AJ Styles is already very good in the ring, so maybe he's the one that's making Waller look good. Although I thought Waller held his own. I think this might turn people's heads, not just on Waller himself, but maybe just NXT in general. The fact that they are building people up and they're competing and they're learning. And of course, maybe it's the quote WWE way, but it's working for most of these guys so far. They're progressing very well. I think his feud with Knight, LA Knight, is going to set up Waller for kind of that first big win that he might need. LA Knight doesn't really need to win. He can afford to lose, I think. But the segment was fun. The match was fun. The end of the show was fun. I thought this was one of the better endings of NXT 2.0 for a show, anyway.
I don't want to be overly critical, but this just seemed weird to me where Styles won fair and square when the match was good. He said, "Hey Waller, like you did good, kid. You're not phenomenal, but you did good." And we could have left it could have left well alone enough at that. And then he's like, "No, I'm gonna kick you when you're down. I'm gonna have LA Knight come out here and beat you up to end the show." It just seemed a little odd to me, and like I guess it almost kind of maybe jeopardize the story of what they're kind of maybe going for. If Waller held his own and he kind of lost the match, but still kind of gained some momentum indirectly with his good performance, then having him get beat up like that, not the best look. Not that I'm still even complaining about that specifically, but it's more kind of on paper. I look at that situation and it's just like it seemed a little odd. And because it didn't seem like this big show closing angle. It's like Knight was gone for a couple weeks, but nothing too crazy. But I'm glad on Knight's back. I'm a big fan of his, and I guess the another problem I have with this is that I can't help but think that the outcome is inevitable. It's going to be for, as you said, John, to give Grayson Waller a big win. So kind of having this angle with that in mind, I wasn't that excited for it because I was like, all right, cool for in the moment, but I can kind of easily see on the horizon LA Knight would taking the loss there. And in a way, I almost think that he does need the win because he has taken a bunch of losses in kind of these kind of situations when feuds kind of come to a shove. Don't remember off the top of my head. I think he's faced Waller before. I'm not quite positive about who won that one, but regardless, I feel like more often than not, Knight has lost. He lost to Cameron Grimes. Ultimately, he lost the feud there and hasn't really done a whole lot since then. So, that does seem to be a valid point of concern. And in my mind, moving forward, maybe I'm wrong, but I couldn't help but kind of think that here. But obviously, yeah, Grayson Waller wouldn't lose here. He remains the most hated man in NXT, as Brian Everett's pointing out. At the same time, DJ saying the crowd was 50-50. I didn't necessarily think so. I thought the crowd was pretty firmly behind AJ. Like, it seems like nobody in the crowd likes Grayson Waller because that's the point. You're not supposed to like him. If I misheard that or wasn't paying close enough attention, I'm sorry, but I didn't notice that myself. And even Herman just quite plainly saying he does not like Waller. And I would probably agree, but at least as the character, it's always for me about the character, not the performer themselves. For the most part, maybe some exceptions, but good main event, can't complain. Steven saying Waller's doing his job. That's all. He's doing his job. He's placed the part well. And as we we're talking about, maybe he's not going to get called up tomorrow or the next week, but like he's performed well so far. I think this was a big test, and seemingly this is over. Like his style is one, it's done. And I think he passed that test, so I have to think that will do him favors here sooner and later, of maybe a call up or something like that. So Can't play with that one. It was a good main event. A good way to end the show, but obviously plenty more to dig into. One thing that that I was not a big fan of, John. They teased me with something that I was very hopeful about last week. They announced last week Von Wagner suspended indefinitely, or they made it clear he was suspended for a while, and they emphasized that again tonight. Wade Barrett repeated, he said, "Oh, Von's been suspended and fined." Direct quote. I feel I think he said something like, "We're not going to see him for quite some time," and I tweeted, "Don't tease me like that. Like I don't want to see him." And then, lo and behold, less than an hour later, oh, someone paid his fine. Suspension is uplifted. Von Wagner will be back. Ness was asking who paid it. I've got to think it's Robert Stone. Stephen Chambers saying that as well. And likewise, kind of connecting the dots here, Brian saying the Von could be getting a manager. I'll one up that and say he should be getting a manager because, as we saw, he struggled a bit on the mic here. But all right, it's fine. I guess I would have been happier if they drew us out a little bit, like had him, maybe had Robert, quote unquote, or whoever this mystery man is, bail Von out after a week or two. Just give me a little bit of a break from him. But regardless, it feels like this is to probably set up whoever the mystery man is. And again, I have to think it's Robert Stone because that's what they were teasing. And sometimes these things do make sense, John. So that's my take on it, at least.
Yeah, like DJ says, who paid the bill? And then, of course, there are some possibilities: Stone, Malcolm Bivens, etc. Um, I don't know. There's not a whole lot that I can say about him. There's not a whole lot that I care about for him. So it's just kind of like one of those things where see what happens. One thing I do want to note is I truly hope that the plan for Braun Breaker is not Von Wagner to be the feud, because that is not the path that you want to go down.
This is not the way.
But the only good thing I see in all of this is that Wagner desperately needs a manager, and I think this is where we're going with it. So
it's a silver lining, yeah. And
yeah.
if not that, if they just drop this next week, all right. But I have to think this is what it is, because that's what we've seen. He needs someone to talk for him if he's gonna, at least for now, to have any chance of really kind of remotely reaching the level of a Braun Breaker or Grayson Waller. He hasn't gotten there by himself so far on the mic, so have to think that that we're gonna see that sooner rather than later, maybe as soon as next week. But at least there's that. They're doing something they should have done maybe right away, where he could have been benefited from a manager right off the bat. Harman saying give him Paul Heyman, keep Paul Heyman far away. Like Paul Heyman can make anybody, and maybe in that way, that's why they should. But no, just keep Paul doing his thing over on Raw.
No, Sean, come on, Sean. I usually agree with Sean Smith on everything, but the future is Vaughn. No, the
I'm
future
sorry.
is not Vaughn.
Not from
It's
what we've seen so
it's not
far.
Vaughn.
No, if I'm wrong, and if he makes some strides and grows a lot, cool. Always love to be proven wrong, but
Maybe he's
no.
being sarcastic because he just gave us
Yeah,
a
it's
laughing
hard to tell.
comment.
Yeah, it's
So
hard to tell. But yeah, they teased me. I thought we were going to get a little bit of a reprieve from Von. We didn't see him this week, so there was that. But no, so far not so good. Something that was good, depending on your perspective, Mandy Rose, NXT Women's Champion, cut a poolside promo talking about how she makes the title look hot. More of the same from Mandy Rose here, saying she's a champion. Everyone watches NXT to see her, as we've seen over the 65 and up demographic. Not necessarily wrong in that regard.
absolutely, oh, absolutely.
But kind of like the Braun Breaker promo, nothing too specific here, other than the fact that this was two separate things. Mandy cut a promo, nothing really much, but then later Kaylee Ray shows up. Stephen Chambers pointing out, she showed up backstage to the aftermath of Mandy's photo shoot, even though she was at poolside, supposedly elsewhere. A little bit of a misconnection there. And I guess she was told that, the photo shoot's over, where it's already done. Mandy is gone. So Kaylee Ray says, okay, I'm going to smash the photo shoot set because I'm mad. And I thought, why? She's gone. They got the photos. What is that? What does that prove? You smashed some stuff up with a bat. Cool. But Stevenson pointing out, this would seem to suggest that that's what we'll see moving forward. With Nesha going as far to say as Kay will beat Mandy soon, and Brian saying he hopes Kaylee Ray takes it. I don't know. At least based on this, I don't know. But as at the very least, as always, it's going to be a good match. Stephen Chambers saying it's going to be a great match. John, what are you thinking about Mandy Rose and seemingly this next direction of feuding with Kaylee Ray, who's kind of been on the outskirts of the title scene for a couple weeks now?
I mean, I think this is a fine direction to go in, but although I thought Kaylee Ray was going to be a heel, and it seems like that's not the case, so it's a little confusing to me in that regard. But I mean, realistically, anybody could be the one to kind of take over the title, so it's hard to say, oh, it won't be her, because eventually it's going to be somebody.
Yeah. I just would think if it was going to be Kaylee Ray, they would have built her up a little better. I mean, of course, national point out she was the longest reigning NXT UK Women's Champion, but they haven't really focused on that. They focus on the fact that she wants to rage and smash stuff with a bat, not the fact that she's a decorated champion, and then she came in with a lot of legitimacy in that regard. So maybe if they do, not say that they can't do that, but definitely to kind of build up the fact that this could be a clash of a champion and a former champion who had a great reign. I mean, that's definitely a much better story than what we've seen so far. So I wouldn't mind that. And I think it would definitely be a good match. So can't play with that one. So that was a good match that I wasn't the biggest fan of the outcome here. DJ's talking all about Santos Escobar and Zion Quinn. He's saying, hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned. Elektra Lopez is a true Jezebel. I'm a big Santos Escobar and Legado fan, but I was hoping for another NXT romance with Zion Quinn and Elektra Lopez. So, of course, Zion Quinn, Santos Escobar faced off in a singles match, seemingly the blow-off to their feud here. At least that's kind of how I read it, where Elektra made it clear she'd be leaving with the winner, so they're fighting for, if not her heart, at least her allegiance. So good match, pretty good. I would say this every time we talk about him. Brian's saying Escobar is a star, 100%. Escobar is a star, and by all rights, he should be like at or near the top of the NXT card already. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite worked out that way, but he always impresses me, so I thought this was a very good match. I thought the storytelling in the match was good, where Elektra teased kind of whose side she was on, kind of left you wondering, oh, who is she going to go out or walk away with? Who is she going to help? She kind of distracted both men at different points. In the end, she kicks Zion right below the belt, and she helps Santos win. So basically, we are right back where we started. Leave me to ask John, what's the point? Because kind of like what DJ was saying, like if I thought they're going to do this, if not a romance thing, which is what they were building up at least temporarily, to just kind of go the complete opposite way as a swerve. Now it's just like, okay, we told this whole story. This is going to go on for weeks, and now it's like, okay, now what? Like now we're back where we started. I don't really know.
I was going to
where we go
ask
from
you the
here.
same thing.
Well, Nesha, saying maybe Santos could kind of ride this win, and as we were talking about, nobody really clearly right away here as the next line for Bron Breakker. This is a big win for him, at least on paper. So, and I should mention, they did have a brief stare down after Bron's promo. The briefest of stare downs, a very passing confrontation.
I mean, the result of this match and just the feud in general, I think was the best option for everyone involved. I think Lopez is a pretty critical part to the stable itself, and I don't think Quinn really needs that. So Escobar with his character is okay, but in the ring especially, one of the top guys and has been for quite some time. And competing with the best, beating the best, he has been an asset to the show for a long time.
Oh, that he has, and it's interesting because he's only been with the company for about a year now, I think, roughly. I think he was in the cruiserweight tournament about a year ago, if I remember correctly. Maybe not too much longer beyond that. And he came at a time, obviously, kind of the tail end of the black and gold era. Not exactly, it was a couple months, but in the grand scheme of things. So they came in there and obviously had the 2.0 whole revamp. Now, Santos, you may not, it doesn't necessarily look like it. He's been wrestling for like 20 years. I think he debuted in like 2001 or so. So he doesn't exactly fit the mold of like the new young star they've been really emphasizing lately. But at the same time, I think they could build, like he could be a new star in terms of, general prominence and like, that they haven't really made him a star yet. And I think they definitely do have a great opportunity to do that. And that's just saying that he could be a great champion. Brian saying Escobar reminds him of Eddie Guerrero. Very, very good comparison there. So even if it's like a temporary feud thing, I think this would be good. I think this would be good for Breaker because it's a classic babyface kind of thing of being the outmanned guy against the stable of Legado. So I could see that. Speaking of Legado, Steven's saying they need to push if they're going to win the Dusty Cup. That's something we also saw tonight here. The beginnings of the qualifications for the men's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. That'll be kicking off next week. We'll talk about that. But yeah, I guess more than anybody at this point, I would probably expect Santos because that was teased and it just makes sense at this point. Whereas they could probably kind of save the Waller match for maybe the February, if they do like a February show or something like that. Like I think that's coming as well. But maybe with Santos being the first kind of signature title defense for Braun, I think that would make sense, at least to me. So I could see that, and if I had predicted today, that's what I would think, and I thought that'd be good. But again, I'm sitting here hoping that Santos becomes the top star, and feuding with champion, you're a top star, but like I think he's going to lose that. So again, it's like a mixed bag of a situation. So speaking of the Dusty Cup here, yes, we had a Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. It was called a play-in match, essentially a qualifying match. It was Harland and Joe Gacy versus Malik Blade and Idris Anufa. And you see that match on paper, and you think, oh, it's going to be Joe Gacy and Harland because they've been built up for a couple weeks now, and they would be kind of, we've talked about it on this very show, a dark horse to kind of win the whole thing because NXT has some tag teams, but none of them jump off the page of like, oh, they clearly should win this thing. So that's what I was kind of entering this match thinking. No, they won by DQ. Or sorry, they lost by DQ. So Malik Blade and Idris Anufa won. And then Vic Joseph said, oh, they could go on to win the whole thing. I'm like, no. No. These guys have been, I hate to say it, but like enhancement talent of like losing week after week after week. Unless you're going to go for like the ultimate underdog story, like that's not it. And I thought that was kind of weird of like to kind of intentionally cost yourself a chance to kind of have Gacy and Harland in there with some of these top teams over a couple weeks, kind of build them up like that. This didn't make sense to me, John. I didn't quite agree with that one.
Well, admittedly, I missed most of this match, but as far as my opinion on the end result and just everything in general, it felt like there was no point in the match. It's hard to believe that there's a clear vision for this tournament right now at the moment. Like as far as like usually when these tournaments start, you look at the bracket, you're like, okay, these two teams are going to be in the finals. This team's going to win. Although we don't really know the exact bracket, I still think there's not really a clear-cut favorite heading into this thing.
No. And that's kind of part of the thing here where it's like I thought Gacy and Harland could be not a favorite, but like a solid option, and they lost. So now they're, as far as we can tell, not in the tournament at all. Brian saying the match was very fluky, didn't understand the booking with the Harland match. I mean, it was weird. Like he got DQ'd, and there was like very like awkward hesitation of like the bell rang, and it wasn't much sure what was going on. And Malik played, and you just say for like their theme didn't play for like solid like minutes, so we're just kind of waiting there, like what's going on. But no, they and it was clear that they won. Gacy and Harland lost, so it did seem a little off to me again, both in terms of I guess idea and execution. DJ asking, we mentioned a minute ago, do we think Blade enough can win the whole thing? And he mentions that MSK won it all last year. Now, to be fair, MSK came in as newly free agents, or sorry, new signings, but like most fans aware of their background, or you could even just do a quick Google search, knew that these guys came to the table with a lot of experience. They were, I don't think they won the titles in Impact, but they were very successful. They've been successful all over the place. They were a very popular tag team heading into the time they got signed. So they had that kind of going for them, and they generated a lot of buzz. Like when they were announced, like that's a very different thing. Whereas these guys, as I said, they've been losing matches on this show for a couple weeks now. And yeah, they've probably won some matches on 205 Live, but that's not exactly a ringing endorsement. So I don't think so. And that's what I'm saying. That's why it doesn't make sense to have these guys win and essentially be an easy out, unless I am dead wrong, against probably whoever they face in the next round. Whereas even if Gacy and Harland weren't going to win the whole thing anyway, they would have been a much more tough out of like, oh, how are you going to beat them? So do you see any chance we're going to see Blade enough to pull off the upset here? But they're not going to. But
Not going to waste my breath.
well, we still don't know who will be in the tournament exactly. You can obviously assume MSK, Grizzly Veterans, Jacket Time, everyone's favorite team. Now we know it will be Malik Blade, Deidre Sanufa, probably a mystery team or two, maybe one from NXT UK. But no, at this point, it's still very much a guessing game, so I can't even really predict who's going to win. Steven Chambers going with Jacket Time. Nesha as well. We had this happen last week. Everyone's like rallying behind Jacket Time, and I ask you why? Like, why? You know, like they're a great team. They're both very, very talented, but the team name is so bad. Like, I can't. Michael's saying that MSK might be back-to-back champions here in this tournament, considering the long-term booking. Obviously, they won the six-man match last week, so maybe there's something to be said for that. We'll talk about Imperium in a minute there, but that would make sense. Brian Everett pointing out that it could be Girls and No Veterans if they're booked correctly, but their gimmick is also really, really bad, so I don't see that either. There aren't really any really good options here. But DJ, again, everyone's rallying around Jacket Time. I don't know why. But if y'all want to rally around them, that's fine. And if you're right, cool. Hopefully they do better. Because yes, Kushida is great and he deserves better than this. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I would agree, but I would probably also pick them right now too if I had to. Jacket Time, man. You know what time it is? It's jacket time.
Now, Jesus told me to get on the bandwagon. I will not. Okay, I will not. Steven, thank you. See some sanity here.
Steven's not digging Jacket Time.
Nor am I. Not about the jackets. Michael's saying it's Jacket Time. Cue the anime music. They could be great, but the name is so bad. I just can't. I can't even say it straight. Like the winners of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, the prestigious Dusty Rhodes legend Tag Team Classic, Jacket Time. One of these things is not like the other, John. It's not. Brian hates the name. I hate the name. I'm not going to drag it on too much.
What's so bad about it? I don't get it's funny.
Stupid.
It's good.
No, DJ reminds me of Kai and Tai. It's like at least Kai and Tai. It's not Jacket Time. Like jacket. What is Jacket Time? It's winter. Is that Jacket Time? Are they cold? Are they constantly cold? What is this, man? I don't want to keep belaboring the point, but it's not good. The sad thing is that on paper they could win because they haven't really pushed anybody else. And that is a distressing sign of the state of the Titan division at this point. When you've got a team as great as Imperium, they're the champions. When you've got MSK, they've had kind of an inconsistent run, but hey, they got the higher education from Riddle, so now they're doing better. They got Brooks and Jensen going to country music festivals and making questionable choices. And Kevin's saying it's Jacket Time all the time, and I guess we're all rallying around Jacket Time, and it's all great. Everyone put on your jackets and root for Jacket Time, I guess. But
something that's maybe less comedic and more action serious was a crowbar on a pole match tonight with Pete Dunne and Tony D'Angelo. There was what appeared to be snapping the throat against a crowbar, losing control, weapons here, weapons there. Just the match was mainly a couple weapons fighting back and forth. The story was played on that they've been building the past couple weeks. Look, maybe this is not, people won't agree with me when I say this. Maybe this is a controversial take, but I think Pete Dunne's time in NXT is coming to a close.
For sure.
And of course, he did recently re-sign with the company, so he could be another one of the Rumble entrants that I'm hoping for. He put over D'Angelo, a heel, ton of natural ability, developing very quickly. But if this is Dunne's final match, he deserved better.
My first problem with this, with all the things in mind of the maybe Rumble of the call up, because again he faced Ciampa in that main event taping, so that is a factor as well. I'm looking it up right now. Dunn actually defeated D'Angelo on December 21st on NXT, so in theory they could easily go with a third match for the series and have that be the final one. Brian's saying D'Angelo is a stud. That match was nice, but my first problem with it is as John Smith saying, they went all Vince Russo, John. It's 2022. Okay, why are we doing a crowbar and a pole match? You could so easily do a no DQ match, no holds barred match, false going to win, like whatever whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, and just have a crowbar be conveniently located somewhere else because they don't have a whole match built around. Oh, we gotta battle to the death for this crowbar that's suspended on a pole. We gotta climb the
Like
pole. And then you just beat each other with it, like because then you don't win when you get the crowbar. They get to use on the person, and the match
yep.
continues. Like the whole thing.
It's like Elias Jeff Hardy guitar on a pole match from last year.
But at least there you get the satisfying smash of a guitar like this. It's a crowbar. Like it doesn't play off the same. And at least I don't know. With Raw, hey, it's all the same company, right? But with Raw, at least it's Raw. You have at least in a way I expect less of Raw. And so I don't even know because now with NXT the bar is even lower. The crowbar is lower, if you will. But yeah, Daniel won. That is good. That is good. We've done likely, yeah. I think all signs point to him being, if not the Rumble, at least main roster bound. I think is a pretty safe bet. So with that in mind, yeah, you might as well push Tony D'Angelo here, give him the win. DJ saying, make him a star and beating a guy like Dunne, we'll do that. And that's just saying D'Angelo has a good look. Brian Everett saying that Dune, I think it's Dune. I don't even know. I always say Dunne. Dune needs a push. Steven Chambers saying he's a Dune fan, but Dune losing makes him think he's going elsewhere. I would think elsewhere as main roster because he did resign with the company. So yeah, at this point, this would be the classic kind of send off, and I would probably just leave it at that. Yeah, I think they're tied 1-1 technically, but I don't really think we need to see this again. So I might as well just kind of leave it at that. Have him be in the Rumble and go from there. D'Angelo is weird because I remember he arrived and everyone thought he was just the hottest thing in town. Everyone just was loving it and was loving the gimmick and the persona and his charm.
Who? Peter Dunne?
No, D'Angelo. And I feel like people have kind of softened on that, where it's like he's not the new kid in town anymore and it's less exciting and it's less fun.
Royal Rumble winner, Peter Dunne.
Hey, crazy things have happened, would not be my
That's his main roster name, Peter Dunne, not Pete Dunne.
Peter Dunne. There you go, Peter Dunne. Steven saying Tony D needs a manager. I don't know about that. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Tony D needs a manager. I mean, worlds apart from Von Wagner. Okay, not trying to knock Von Wagner again, but Tony D, he can play the part well. He cut a promo talking about how he's going to show Pete Dunne just like his dog Stromboli. He's going to show Peter Dunne that he's in charge tonight, and that's what he did. Beat him with a crowbar, showed him who's in charge, showed him who's the man here, who's got the real D around here. But no, I don't think he needs a manager. If anything, eventually give him a stable, kind of like an FBI kind of throwback there. But no, he's fine. Brian's saying he's over. He is popular. I guess I may have jumped the gun on that one. He's fine. He's over. He picked up a good win here. Maybe you could feed him to Breaker at some point. I don't see him as a champion level guy right now. That'd be my kind of prediction in the short term. But speaking of the titles here, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we did get a promo from Carmelo Hayes, and he got confronted by Cameron Grimes, who's going 2020 to the moon. Such a lazy but beautifully simple catchphrase. I like that. 2020 to the moon. And obviously we know that Grimes he was the $1 million champion briefly, but he hasn't actually held a recognized title on NXT. So he plans to change that in 2022. How does he plan to do it? By feuding with Carmelo Hayes, who won or unified the North American and Cruiserweight titles last week. As I said earlier in the show, he's going to promo, but later in the show, he's looking to leave. And Grimes stole his keys. And he said, basically just he told him what's why. He said, I'm going 2022 to the moon. I'm gonna face you and take the title. Boy, that match will be fun. Nash is saying that it's gonna be that Grimes needs a belt, and I would agree. I think this will be fun, and I think you've got two colorful characters, and that's to me a good recipe for a feud.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think this is the future of the brand. Maybe not Grimes, but obviously every time there's a promo or match, it feels like there's an accurate or stellar delivery. whether it's a celebration, a match, a segment, a word of words, a contract signing, no matter what it is, it seems to always hit the mark. Uh, the charisma here is going to be off the charts. I think this is interesting and entertaining enough that it could possibly main event or carry the show for a couple weeks or a month or two or however long they carry this out. Here's my issue. Not necessarily an issue, but a question. Um, I don't think Grimes needs to win. He doesn't need to be the champion. But how fast do they want Carmelo Hayes to move up? Because I feel like they really, really like him backstage. And that's not always a good thing from what we've seen when they move somebody up.
Too quick, especially.
So, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I think, I think we talked about this weeks ago. I feel like there's this shift, or it has maybe been a shift of usually, again, we saw for years, Tommaso Ciampa did not go anywhere. He was on NXT. He was an NXT lifer. Same with Gargano. While he was there, Adam Cole, guys, listen, you come to NXT and you kind of get plugged in and you're there for years. Whereas now I feel like they are maybe intentional, at least the way I kind of see it. They're the goal is to build these guys up more than ever to be on the main roster, and especially if they take the ball and run with it, then that does, I would think, fast track the journey. So a guy like Braun Breaker, I've already seen people saying he'll be in the Rumble. Someone said yesterday, Johnny, you were there. Someone said he'll win the Rumble. And that's crazy, but anything can happen. But I've seen others saying maybe come SummerSlam time, maybe he gets caught up and that very rapid push continues. So Kamal is very much the same thing. I think he was in a dark match couple weeks ago, so they're already kind of feeling the waters a little bit. Not to say that means he's going to get called up, but they're kind of seeing what they got. I definitely think they do like what they have with them. Obviously, that's been pretty clear already. Again, does that mean he'll get called up tomorrow? No. Does that mean that he seems to have a bright future and that they are going to want to set him up for success? I think so. I like this option. This one from Steven Chambers saying he'd like to see Braun and Hayes, both titles on the line, maybe take over WrestleMania weekend. Unfortunately, the days of Takeover are no more, but the WrestleMania weekend era, roughly thereabouts that show. Yeah, but the only problem is then one of them needs to lose, and I don't know if they're going to want to do that. I think that at least for now, again, depending on what the timeline is, I think that's kind of the big match they could do. Steven mentioned a minute ago of you could have Trick Williams be a wild card here. They did kind of tease some dissension here with Trick Williams being a little maybe overshadowed, feeling upset that the Hayes was kind of overshadowing him. So already planted seeds for a little bit of dissension there that we could see play out at some point. But no, I've got to think that one or both of these guys will be on the main roster probably at some point this year. I mean, it's January now. I think that's a pretty safe bet, especially if I am
at Royal Rumble.
I don't see it because then the thing with a Rumble is you show up, you get tossed over the rope. It's not a loss. It's not like you're getting pinned.
What if they win though? If they win the whole damn thing?
I don't see it. That would be such he's all right. I'm sorry. He's not Brock Lesnar. All right. Brock Lesnar, he shows up. People have made that comparison. I think it's a good comparison, but I don't see them on equal ground. I think Braun has been, really, he's taken this ball and he's run with it. I don't see because Brock won the King of the Ring. That's kind of different. This is one match where you've got guys who even Big E, AJ Styles, they'd have to kind of beat all of them. And then I think with that you kind of run the risk of a babyface Roman Reigns kind of thing of people is turning on him hardcore because they don't like when things are forced they're so clearly going all over this guy. We've seen that happen and doing that so soon. The man debuted in September, John. All right, and he's done so well so far. But if you're telling me realistically, do I think he's going to win the Rumble? Which would be, 4 months later? That's crazy. As crazy as some of the things we've seen with NXT 2.0, with guys really getting fast tracked. I acknowledge that, but the Rumble is probably, it matters. It's one of the biggest things you could possibly do, and that I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe next year. There's always next year. But do you think he's a realistic option as a
No,
champion right now? Yeah,
no,
he just
I
won a
don't.
title. I have to think that he'll hold it for at least like probably
6
3
months.
months. Six is I think that's pretty safe. Again, if they want to really fast track it, have him losing
Roman
on.
Reigns style, 500 days.
There you go. Hey, it could happen. So yes, I think both guys very, very bright futures. Steven Simmons saying Raw needs Braun. Yeah, but not today. Because again, I think he's not quite there. The guy, like, he's still learning. And being thrown onto Raw of all places is not the best learning environment for any number of reasons. So I've got to think, the time is not right now. So Michael's saying he'll hold until NXT, the next show, big, premium live event, I guess. So they're not takeovers anymore in April. It's pretty safe. That's 4 months, so I can see that. Maybe he loses to Kamala there, but in some ways, I almost expect Kamala to get called up sooner. In some ways, so I think that might be a little easier to pull off. But both are going to be on the main roster. I have got to think sooner and later. Exact one I don't know, but they've both been doing great so far, and I'm excited to see what they do next. Something that I wasn't so excited for tonight. One thing we haven't really, I guess there were two things we haven't really touched on so far. Solo Sikoa face Boa in a match where they're trying to
Say that
play...
10 times fast.
I hate it, John. I hate it. I hate it.
Don't mix them up when you're typing articles.
It's tempting to. They're so similar. The names, John. Like usually they have such distinct names now. Solo Sikoa and Boa. Oh my. I had a match. They're trying to pull this off, play it off like a blood feud, where I don't even know why they're feuding in the first place. And John, I watch the show every week. We talk about it every week. And I'm like, what? They had like maybe some like one attack here or there, some maybe a little interference, like nothing crazy. And all of a sudden they both get counted out, so neither man wins. Then they keep brawling, and Solo just beats him with a chair. They keep fighting backstage, going back and forth, and Boa breaks out a fireball like it's 1992. And I'm like, what is this? Like, why? And that's Boa obviously was demonic face now. He's got superpowers or demonic powers, so I guess he would be more fitting. Yet again, we've talked every time this comes up. I don't know where it's going. I have to think again, like what I was saying with the LA Knight stuff. This feels kind of like a very clear way to build up Solo. And just we were just talking about Carmelo and Braun. Solo, very much another guy, definitely feels like he'll be moved up fast. Obviously, you've got the bloodline connection. The crowd was chanting Uso when the man was still backstage. So if that does kind of goes to show you, like, that's there for the taking. But
these guys certainly had chemistry, I thought, tonight. This is one of the rivalries that the match itself was pretty brief. It really didn't show their full capabilities. But Solo Sikoa is kind of way over right now, and this reminded me of the last year when Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton did that little thing in the ring with the fire there.
You see, the problem is, John, that's Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton. So like my willingness to like let it play out and like to buy in much higher because I'm a big fan of Alexa Bliss. And Randy Orton, like the man's a 14-time world champion. Like
You're a big fan of Boa.
No. Anthony's saying Solo and Boa in a fireball and a pole match next week. Like I don't know how that would work. That sounds like a
They'll
fire
put
hazard.
like a cannon or something on a pole so the winner can shoot the fireball.
I thought you were gonna say shoot the other person with the cannonball. Boy, I don't know. Yeah, I just maybe you'll probably have a rematch. Maybe Boa will like get him one up on him next week in like a beatdown, and then they'll have a rematch and Solo will win, and we're just kind of biding our time because again, I feel like we're gonna see Solo get called up again. I view him as a guy that will be on main roster sooner and later, solely because of the Uso connection there. Not as a knock on him. I think he's looked good so far, but that's just. I feel like they're going to be so tempted by that. They're not even going to necessarily take their time and like let them develop, and they're just going to want to roll with that. But I like this option. Maybe we'll see Solo rock an eye patch coming out tonight, getting the fireball spot. That'd be cool. He was like a badass with a eye patch. DJ's asking if I had to support Boa or Jacket Time, which one would I buy their T-shirt? Well, here's the thing: I am cheap, so it takes a lot for me to buy a T-shirt for a wrestler because like they're a little overpriced. Well, unless it's a really good sale. So if you're telling me today of a really good sale, if I really had to pick, it would not be Jacket Time. I could not walk around with they probably have a shirt at this point. I'm assuming it says Jacket Time on it. I could not, unless I badly lost a bet, wear a shirt around with Jacket Time on it. At least Boa, I imagine it'd probably be like a cool, like demonic face, so I can kind of play it off like it's cool. Jacket Time ain't cool. I'm sorry. Like I would not.
They could do trios because they're all Asian. That's something they would do.
It's sad because you're right, John. It's sad because you're right. Steven's telling me to buy a Braun shirt. See,
Don't.
the problem is, all right, I can respect Braun as a great talent. I can respect the fact that Braun, like I said, we're just talking about for 7 minutes. He's taking this ball and running with it. My problem is that it literally is the representative of the era that destroyed NXT Black and Gold. Like I can't by principle, I can't support that with my hard-earned dollars, John. I can't do it.
Fair enough.
But something else a lot of people want to talk about tonight was the NXT's new resident napper, Wendy Chu. Sleeping Beauty, as DJ calls her, in a 6-win tag team match tonight. Wendy, Persia Parada, and Indy Hartwell versus Amari Miller and help me out, John. I don't know. Did you catch
Help you out with what?
Who was in this match? I barely even saw it.
Oh, it was Hartwell Prada and Wendy Chu versus Casey Kenzero, Caden Carter, and Amari Miller.
See, I should know that because they don't have any teams in the tag division. At least they're doing better than the women's tag division on the main roster because they only have one team now, and those are the champions. So thank you, DJ, Steven, for pointing that out.
Although Chu does look a lot more comfortable in this role rather than Mei Ying.
John, her gimmick is that she sleeps all the time. And like I saw a lot of people already comparing.
Hey, but the character has more legs than many of some of the other odd gimmicks they have going on. She's clearly slowly catching on, clearly learning. Like, we mean like who? Like who's her gimmick better than?
Yeah.
Von Wagner is one.
Right, that's fair. He barely has a gimmick at this point. I guess something's better than nothing in that case.
But it could not be any more clear to me that Indy and Persia are the next challengers for Toxic Attraction.
Oh, yeah.
And I would not be surprised if they won. Ever since, Candace left for a baby, Johnny, his time expired with the company, and Austin Theory is teaming with Mr. McMahon on the main roster. We have the lone wolf that's left here of Indy Hartwell. And she has remained a priority for NXT. And thankfully, what has not remained a priority on NXT is Index. They have gotten rid of Index. They have not really talked about that anymore. Very long overdue. Very nice change.
Why do you
say
these things that hurt me, John? You hurt me with your words, okay? I
miss as Triple H would say, nothing personal, just business.
Now you're bringing up Triple H, and now I'm even more sad because like they've just taken his baby and ruined it. Boy. But some thoughts on this women's match here. Brian saying the women's tag team match was fun. Alexa Miller, she's a star. Don't understand the one that she can go in the ring. I mean, yeah, she was like napping after the match, and then she like fire up, and like she was apparently impressive. Yeah, but Nando's saying WWE gives people bad gimmicks, and Wendy's making the most of it. I mean, this was like the first real time she's actually even played the gimmicks. Otherwise, it's been very minimal cameos and segments here and there. So I don't know. It's ironic because like say what you will about the lack of long-term storytelling. They've like built this up for a couple weeks, like she pops up in a segment here and there, and now we see the grand debut, if you will, of Wendy Chu. They tweeted earlier today about this match. And it was something like, choose your tagging partner. I'm like, no, even the tweets are lame, man. And apparently it was a Simpsons reference went over my head, but I was like, that's still just like, if you don't know the reference, like I'm like, which I did, and I was like, I don't know. But National saying she loves Casey. I guess the combo of Casey, Caden, and Mar Miller here. And obviously, yeah, Steven's saying NXT has more women's tag teams than Raw and SmackDown combined. Well, yeah, they only have one actual women's tag team on the main roster, and it's the champions. So in that regard, definitely NXT is doing better than the main roster there. So I think that's about all we got. So with that being said, John, all these things being considered here, the good, the bad, and the ugly, what did you think about NXT 2.0 tonight?
We're gonna go with the 6.5, just a little below average. Not a whole ton of progression on stories, a little bit of development on some new ones with that Grimes one, but other than that, kind of just going on a straight line right now on the show.
Yeah, obviously we saw coming out of last week, new era. This was maybe a little bit of a holding pattern. In some ways, we saw some things that we kind of got set up for. You know, I mean, generally speaking, in a rare kind of exception on the show, at least nothing was officially set up, other than the fact that we do know that the men's Dusty Cup will begin next week. I thought we would see the brackets tonight. We did not, so that will remain, at least sitting here today, kind of a wait and see on that one. Nelson giving it a 7, Steven was 7 as well, Brian was 7 as well, so it feels like very much in line roughly. Herman with a 4, saying he slept through the show, just waited for the main event. Don't blame me with that one. Kevin, another 7 from Kevin. I'll go for like a 6.8. You know, I wasn't offensively bad, wasn't particularly good. I guess I would have hoped for a little more direction. That was probably my big thing. And then some of the questionable things that I mentioned about, you know, the LA Knight thing and some of the other things, and the crowbar on a pole thing being a little weird. 6.6 from French Fernando. Duja pointing out Dakota Kai had a brief promo about success dividing friendship, kind of referencing her team with Raquel Gonzalez, who was nowhere to be seen tonight. So I saw some predictions wondering if she'll be in the Women's Dusty Cup. Well, she'll only need a partner, and I don't know exactly who that would be at this point. DJ going as low as a 3. Not a fan of the show tonight. Again, I never, especially when I see these days, I don't blame you. And another thing I glazed over. Imperium cut a promo. Imperium, worth mentioning, Walter will have his quote-unquote final stand on NXT UK, seemingly indicating that he might be coming to NXT Prime. John's pumping his fist. I think this
Main
may be
roster,
a good thing.
brother.
You're telling me he's going to go to the main roster? It's like leapfrog NXT? And you actually no, remember you tweet about this because you had said like, oh, they can't mess up Walter. He's got the size. He could be this big star.
They can't. He's going right to the main roster, Dominic Mysterio style.
I don't know if that's the best comparison, but
well, that's the only one I could think of that skipped NXT besides AJ Styles, but he was in a different company.
At least with Walter, he was. I mean, NXT UK is practically its own company, and he had a lot of experience before that. So in the event that happens, I think he would be set up for success. We got a brief promo from Imperium, and they were saying that they look down on the unfashionable and the overweight, apparently. I don't know if that was the best approach, but I'm glad. I've been saying for a while that I really think they've got something with Imperium as a stable, not just a team, not just an occasional faction that we occasionally see as a united front, but as a legitimate trio. I think they could really do some damage. I would like to see that. I saw this at least idea on Twitter. Steven saying we could see Walter versus Braun. That'd be a pretty colossal match there. I'd like to see that if they build up to it. But John's saying maybe we'll see him kind of jump the line and go right to the main roster. I think it's possible, but I worry they just wouldn't know what to do with him. I don't know. I don't know about that. I'd like to see him kind of see what he could do on NXT UK in even a temporary run of.
One thing I got to point out before we end the show, and DJ reminded me when he says, I think we're all in agreement that Dominic Mysterio is not winning the Rumble this year. They showed a graphic yesterday of all of the confirmed Royal Rumble participants for the men's side. And I think it was Jimmy Smith, maybe, when they brought it up. And he literally said to, I think, Byron, that he saw nothing but legends in the picture except Johnny Knoxville. So he was implying that Dominic Mysterio was a legend. Dominic Mysterio is going to be eliminated by Omos in like 5 seconds. And he's going to be like the number 5 entrant, and he's going to come in, and that's it. That comment That comment made me want to jump in the bathtub with a toaster plugged into the wall.
Good Lord, John. I know some people don't listen to commentary because it can be really, really bad sometimes. But sometimes stuff like that, if you have fun with it, it's really fun. Some of the stuff they just like pull out and say. Something like that. All legends. All, of course, not Johnny Knox, but everyone else, legend. No, that's funny. Some else is funny. Stephen James saying that like Walter, Walter like Veer, then they'll do with him. I mean, well, apparently like Veer, Walter is also coming, and that is
Veer is the number 30 entrant in the Rumble, I'm telling you. And here's the thing, his music's gonna hit and he's not gonna come out, and they're gonna have to go to somebody else and they say, oh, he's still on his way. He didn't make it yet.
He doesn't even have music. He has like a little like
Well, he's on his
jingle.
way. Okay. You know what's gonna happen? He's gonna like end up in the wrong place and suddenly he's gonna be with like Jinder and Shanky again.
Not just warning us all. Nobody get a toaster for John's birthday. Don't encourage him.
It is in 2 months. It's coming up in March.
So everyone, like, make a mental note. Do not get John a toaster. Bad things will happen. Good God. Get John something a little safer than a toaster. But boy, that went off the rails real quick. But with that being said, NXT, just like Veer, we'll be coming back. At least for us next week. We'll be here on Tuesday. Here to talk all things NXT. We'll be here on Monday for Monday Night Raw. Otherwise, the two Dynamite dudes on the Rampage cover all things AEW. No SmackDown show this week. Yet again, the schedule of the jam-packed wrestling world gets in the way, but we do our best. And with that, we also have a great stream of interviews constantly coming at you. I interviewed Matt Cardona last week. Bill Pritchard recently interviewed Mark Henry. More than I can even think to name off the top of my head. Make sure to check it out. Lots of good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate it. On all the platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, you know where to find us. Just leave a like. We appreciate it. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and support us, talk all things wrestling here. It means the world. We would not be here doing the show if not for your support. Appreciate it a lot. As always, I should say once again, the world is a terrifying place, but we try to escape that and avoid all the scary stuff by coming here talking about the wild, weird world of wrestling. And in doing so, John, we try to do one thing above all others. You can tell me what that is.
Acknowledge WrestleZone and enjoy wrestling.
Darn right. Thanks for listening.